So a tiny indie studio nobody's ever heard of just announced a game that is, and I cannot stress this enough, a legally distinct, slightly off-brand, AliExpress knockoff version of Bully. And I mean that as an insult and a compliment. They're charging into the teenage delinquent simulator arena that Rockstar has refused to touch for 20 years. They're putting dirty magazines in the in-game shop as a feature bullet point on their website, and the trailer looks like if the 2006 PS2 classic ate a gas station sandwich and came back as a ghost. And you know what? I'm kind of obsessed with it. I'm also a little scared of it. Let me explain why the most exciting game of 2026 might also be a complete disaster, because we're about to talk about Agefield High, Rock the School. And the gamble these guys are making is absolutely unhinged in the best way possible. Let's set the stage first, because this is genuinely important. For those of you too young to remember, or those of you who blocked it out because you were busy burning a Limp Bizkit CD onto your iPod mini, Rockstar Games released a game in 2006 called Bully. You played a 15-year-old kid with the exact haircut of every stepdad in America, and your mom dropped her off at a boarding school for years so she could go on a honeymoon cruise with a rich old phony, which, by the way, is already funnier than the plot of most modern AAA games. You went to class, you gave nerds wedgies, you shot people with slingshots, you kissed both boys and girls, and the game did not care. It was one of the most charming, strange, culturally specific games Rockstar ever made, and they have refused, and I want you to really feel this word, refused, to make a sequel for 20 consecutive years. They greenlit it, they got 8 hours of vertical slice built, they had a map the size of Vice City, and then they shelved it. They shelved it again, they shelved it a third time. At this point, Bully 2 isn't a canceled game, it's a cryptid. It's the Mothman of video games. People on gaming forums post grainy screenshots of it every 3 months, and half the internet loses its mind. Meanwhile, Rockstar is over here making a 16th version of Grand Theft Auto Online, where you can buy a digital yacht for 400 real-life American dollars, but God forbid we get to beat a nerd in the face with a dodgeball one more time before we die. So that's the vacuum. That's the hole in the market, and into that hole, and I want everyone to take a moment and appreciate the courage required to do this, steps a small European indie studio called Refugium Games, which is a name that sounds like a brand of artisanal sparkling water, and they say, we'll do it. We'll make it. How hard could it be? And listen, I respect this energy. I respect it. This is the energy of a man walking into a Waffle House at 3 a.m. with no shoes on. This is the confidence of a golden retriever trying to eat a bumblebee. You have to admire it, even as you watch it happen in slow motion. Here's what they're promising. You play a senior named Sam who just moved to a sleepy town called Agefield, which, side note, is a name so generic I genuinely thought I misread it the first time. Agefield. It sounds like a mattress brand. It sounds like a suburb where nothing has ever happened. Your mom dumps you there, you meet two buddies named Kale and Axel, one of whom is named after a leafy green, the other named like he fronts a 2003 nu metal band that opened for Stained one time, and the three of you decide to, quote, rock the school, which is the kind of phrase a 47-year-old marketing executive thinks teenagers say. I love it, I'm all in, put it in my veins, and then you look at the feature list and it is genuinely incredible. You attend classes, English, math, geography, German, and music. German, specifically German. Why German? I don't know. I assume because the devs are from Germany and they got tired of making a fake language. You can skip class, and the game has a whole system for dealing with consequences. You can buy bikes, you can buy clothes, you can buy hairstyles, you can buy tattoos. You can buy, and I'm reading directly from the studio's own website here, dirty magazines. They put it on the website, they bullet pointed dirty magazines, not adult content, not mature material, dirty magazines. The specificity is so 2003 it physically hurts. I haven't heard the words dirty magazine since my uncle got divorced. If this sounds familiar to you, it's because it's the exact Bully feature list with the serial numbers filed off. Classes, Bully. Bikes, Bully. Open world town with a campus, neighborhoods, and countryside, Bully. Haircuts and tattoos, Bully. Picking a girl to take to prom, Bully. Getting into fights with authority figures, Bully. This is not subtle. This is not an inspired by. This is not a spiritual successor with a few new ideas. This is someone watching a speedrun of Bully and going, okay, we're doing that, but the main character is blonde now. And here's where I have to be honest with you, because the whole thing I do on this channel is honesty, even when it hurts. I need to talk about the studio. Refugium Games have made 2 games before this. The first one was called Grey Hill Incident, and it was a survival horror game about alien abductions. It currently sits at mixed on Steam, got absolutely demolished by every critic who touched it, and Metacritic reviews called it, and I quote from multiple different outlets, downright laughable, tedious, one of the worst titles of the year, and my personal favorite, the biggest commendation I can give this game is how short it is. That is a real review. Someone wrote that. Someone submitted that to their editor and got paid for it. It's the most backhanded compliment in the history of games journalism. Hey man, great job. You didn't make me suffer for very long. Now, deep breath. I'm not saying Agefield High is going to be bad. I want this to be clear. Sometimes studios grow. Sometimes a team takes the criticism of their first game, locks themselves in a room, cries about it for 6 months, drinks a silly amount of Red Bull, and comes back with something spectacular. This is a tradition in indie development. People were dunking on Hello Games and No Man's Sky for years, and now it's one of the most beloved redemption stories in the industry. It can happen. I'm rooting for it to happen. But I'd be lying if I didn't tell you the trailer has some character. By character, I mean the NPCs walk like they just learned about legs last week. The combat looks a little stiff. The voice acting has that specific European indie game vibe where every line sounds like it was recorded in a Volkswagen Golf with the windows up. And the whole thing has this uncanny quality where you can feel the ambition vibrating through the screen, but the execution is running about 6 paces behind it, gasping for air. It looks like a game you'd find on the third row of a Blockbuster in 2006. And your mom would buy it for you because it was on sale, and you'd play it for 12 hours straight and never tell anyone. And honestly, that might be exactly what we need right now. Hear me out. We live in an era where every big budget game costs $400 million and takes 11 years to make and has to appeal to every demographic on planet Earth at the same time so that the suits at the publisher can justify the spreadsheet. Every single one of them is a live service. Every one of them has a battle pass. Every one of them has a skin store with a hoodie that costs more than the groceries I bought this week. Nobody's making weird, specific, culturally grounded single-player games about being a 17-year-old loser who wants to kiss a girl behind the bleachers anymore. Nobody. Rockstar won't do it. Ubisoft is too busy making the same Viking game for the 9th time. EA is busy ruining another sports franchise. And in that vacuum, a studio most people have never heard of is saying, you know what, we'll do it. We'll make the janky little bully game, and if it's rough around the edges, who cares? At least it exists. I think there's something genuinely beautiful about that, even if the final product ends up being a 6 out of 10, because a 6 out of 10 bully clone is more interesting to me than another 9 out of 10 open world game where I climb a tower to unlock icons on a map. I'd rather play a weird, flawed, ambitious indie game about skipping German classes and buying dirty magazines than another AAA slot bucket where I pay $60 and they get harassed to buy the horse armor. Now, is this going to sell 10 million copies? Absolutely not. Is the voice acting going to be rough? Almost definitely. Will there be bugs? Oh, my sweet summer child, there will be bugs. The loading screen is probably going to be a bug, but here's the thing. For the first time in 20 years, somebody is actually trying to make this kind of game. And when you're starving, a weird sandwich is still a sandwich. Also, I need to address the elephant in the room. Rockstar is going to see this. Rockstar has a legal team that is roughly the size of a small country's standing army. If this game does even moderately well, there is a non-zero chance that a team of lawyers in dark suits descends on a tiny office in Germany and asks some very pointed questions about why the feature list looks like a Xerox copy of a 2006 PS2 game. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying I'd have an emergency exit plan ready if I were these devs. Maybe a boat, a fast one. So here's my honest take. I'm going to wishlist this. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to keep my expectations firmly planted at janky, charming indie game levels, because if I go in expecting Bully 2, I'm going to be disappointed. But if I go in expecting a scrappy little love letter made by people who clearly, obviously, and transparently love the same game I loved when I was a kid, I think I'm going to have a good time. And if it's bad, it'll at least be memorably bad, which in 2026 is more than I can say for most of the games coming out of the big studios. The release window is summer 2026 on PC, with PS5 and Xbox Series versions coming later. Between now and then, we'll see how this plays out. Maybe it'll surprise everyone, maybe it'll crash and burn. Either way, I'll be there with a cup of coffee and my opinions. And you know, I'll let you know what I actually think. But what do you guys think? Are you hyped for this? Are you calling it the second coming of Bully, or are you predicting a train wreck? Drop it in the comments. Like the video if you missed when games were allowed to be weird and small. Subscribe if you're new. I do this a lot. And I'll see you in the next one.